Okay, so you're scrolling, you pause, maybe you sigh, then double tap. You know the post I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
That perfectly styled Instagram carousel. It's always called something like my burnout journey.
Oh, yeah. Soft lighting, the obligatory steaming mug.
Yeah.
Maybe a laptop just showing enough of a pristine to-do list to look busy, but like aesthetically busy.
Exactly. And the caption, rest is resistance, or healing isn't linear, it's also polished.
It really is. It's become an aesthetic, hasn't it? Collapse as curated content. People are almost advertising their exhaustion.
That's it. We eat it up, save the post, think, wow, this is so fake, and then we jump right back into the life that supposedly caused it. So that's what we're diving into today. This idea that exhaustion isn't just a state, it's become, well, a performance.
A highly effective one, potentially.
Right. Saying I'm so burned out isn't always a cry for help anymore. Sometimes it feels more like a brand filter you apply to life.
And our mission today is to kind of peel back the layers on that. Usually we point fingers outward. You know, it's capitalism, it's the hustle culture, the terrible boss. But we're going to take a more, let's say, psychoanalytic angle. A bit radical, maybe.
Okay.
What if this burnout, this symptom, is actually a really clever psychological strategy? What's the unconscious mind really screaming through that meticulously crafted LinkedIn update about taking space?
So we're decoding the symptom, moving beyond seeing burnout as just being a victim of circumstances, and starting to see it as maybe a kind of genius, if tragic, maneuver to get something we desperately want but feel like we just can't ask for.
We're asking why part of your brain might secretly, unconsciously get a kick out of being utterly depleted.
Okay, let's start with that feeling, that modern compulsion. You wake up, what's the absolute first thing you do?
Reach for the phone, almost certainly.
Before coffee, before anything. And you open, what? Notion, Todoist. Some app that basically validates your entire existence through tasks.
And you look at that calendar, just packed, or the to-do list that scrolls forever, and consciously the feeling is, oh God, I'm swamped, I'm already behind. Stress, guilt.
But hang on, if it's so stressful,
Well,
why is that the first thing you check? Why actively seek out the source of the overwhelm?
because underneath that surface level stress, there's often this little spark, a tiny energetic thrill.
A thrill from overwhelm.
Yeah, the density, the pace, the feeling of being absolutely essential. Your ego, the part of you managing reality, might actually be, well, getting off on the pressure.
Getting off on the pressure, wow, okay.
It ties into what Freud called the superego. We basically internalize this incredibly demanding taskmaster.
Right, the superego. How would you explain that for someone who, hasn't brushed up on their Freud lately in 2024 terms?
Think of it as like your internalized CEO mixed with a harsh moral judge. But its morality isn't about good and evil in the old sense. It's about productivity, optimization, visibility. It's that voice screaming, achieve, optimize, be indispensable, your worth is your output. It makes you feel guilty for resting unless you've somehow earned it.
Okay, so you've got this internal battleground. The superego yelling, hustle.
Woo!
And then there's the id.
Exactly. The id is just raw, primal desire. It wants to stop working. It wants pleasure, rest, maybe just regress entirely, lie on the sofa, eat snacks, be taken care of.
Pure impulse.
Pure impulse. And the ego, poor thing, is stuck in the middle, trying to broker peace between the superego's demands and the id's desires. Often, it fails spectacularly.
And that's when the performance kicks in.
That's often when it starts. You put on a brave face for the world. You tell your boss, yep, all under control.
Right. But then maybe you book a therapy session, ironically, during the company-mandated wellness hour.
And that's where you finally break down and admit you haven't felt like yourself in weeks.
We've gotten so good at the language, haven't we? We talk about boundaries, nervous system regulation, the inner child.
Fluent in wellness speak.
Totally fluent. But we're often scheduling our 5-minute meditation app session between back-to-back Zoom calls, talking self-care while driving ourselves into the ground.
And that disconnect, that hypocrisy almost, leads us to the strategic collapse. The burnout itself, it feels like your body just mutinies.
Yeah.
Your mind goes blank, motivation vanishes. And here's the really crucial insight from this perspective. Burnout becomes the acceptable container for a deeply unacceptable desire.
Okay, we need to spell out that unacceptable desire. What is it the IE wants that's so taboo in our culture?
It's not just wanting a vacation, it's wanting to surrender completely. The hidden wish is something like, I want to stop everything. I want someone else to take the responsibility. I want to be held, looked after without needing to earn it or perform for it. Honestly, I want to be a trial again.
Yeah, in a world obsessed with independence and productivity, that feels deeply shameful to admit.
Exactly. It feels like failure, like weakness.
So you can't just say, you know what, I'm checking out, I'm lazy today.
Yeah.
You'd be judged, right?
Right. But the ego, trying to manage this, performs a kind of psychological magic trick. It disguises that shameful wish as a virtue.
How does it do that?
Well, you don't say, I'm giving up because I can't cope. You frame it differently. You say, I'm not lazy, I'm healing from burnout. Or I'm not avoiding responsibility, I'm practicing radical self-care and honoring my body's needs.
Okay, so you get to collapse, you get to stop.
And suddenly people offer support. You're cared for, you're given space, you're held often without ever having to directly ask for that vulnerability, which feels too risky. It's an ingenious, unconscious workaround.
And culturally, we actually reward this performance.
Yeah.
Burnout becomes this weird badge of honor. Proof you were so important, so essential that the system literally broke you.
It's the ultimate receipt, as you said earlier, evidence of your struggle. It's like this trophy saying, I participated fully in the exhausting game of modern life. You turn your breakdown into, well, a personal brand.
Which leads to the question, why is it so trendy? Why do we almost romanticize it? Compete over who has the most high-functioning burnout?
Well, that brings us to the concept of secondary gain.
Secondary gain. Okay, what's that?
Basically, the hidden benefit you get from having the symptom. Beyond the primary goal, which might be escaping pressure, there are these extra payoffs.
Like what, in the case of burnout?
Attention, definitely. Validation. Sometimes even a weird kind of moral superiority. You know, I worked so hard, I cared so much, that's why I crashed. It taps into that masochistic streak Freud talked about, deriving unconscious pleasure or advantage from suffering, especially if that suffering earns you love or admiration.
So when you make that post about your sacred pause and the comments flood in,
You're so brave, queen of boundaries, sending healing energy.
it feels good. You feel seen, held, maybe even loved in a way that just grinding away silently never achieved. That's the payoff.
That's a huge part of the payoff, and it keeps the cycle going. But there's another twist here, maybe the most unsettling one.
Okay, I'm braced.
Burnout is the new romance.
Whoa, okay, explain that. Romance.
Think about what we traditionally seek in deep romantic love. Tenderness, right? Being prioritized. Safety. Intense attention. Being excused from some of life's demands. The permission to just surrender a bit.
Okay, I see where you're going.
When you're legitimately burned out or performing ineffectively, society often grants you those very things. People bring you food, they check in, they lower expectations, they tell you to rest.
So all that deep human longing for connection, for care, for intimacy, it gets channeled into the burnout narrative instead of, say, a relationship.
It can, yeah. I'm burned out functions almost like I'm in love, used to. It's the ultimate socially sanctioned excuse to be soft, to slow down, to be a bit selfish even. Psychoanalytically, we might call it displaced eroticism. Your core life energy, your libido, finds this new outlet.
Instead of dating, you're diagnosing.
And your burnout becomes this incredibly loyal partner that demands and receives constant attention.
This is, wow. Okay, but pulling this off, this whole performance, it relies on some serious mental gymnastics, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're so quick to blame the external, the job, the boss, capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
But you're suggesting burnout is, what was the term, overdetermined?
Yes, overdetermined, meaning it's caused by a complex web of factors, especially internal ones, things we often refuse to look at. We rely heavily on defense mechanisms to manage the internal conflict.
Like what kind of defense mechanisms?
Well, a major one is repression, just burying that inconvenient desire, the wish to stop, to rest, to play under layers and layers of must work harder, must achieve more. We convince ourselves we genuinely want the relentless hustle.
We push it down.
Okay.
And what happens when that doesn't work, when the misery leaks out anyway?
Then we often turn to projection.
Projection, meaning?
Meaning you take your internal discomfort and you basically outsource it. You locate the problem outside yourself so you don't feel, I hate the life path I've chosen, this doesn't fulfill me.
Right.
Instead, you feel, this job is soul-crushing, or this company culture is toxic and it burned me out. You make the external world the sole villain. Your unconscious conveniently forgets it might have eagerly signed up for this path, believing achievement equaled worth. It avoids taking responsibility for its own contribution to the unhappiness.
And while all this internal drama unfolds, our actual life force, our drive, our libido gets completely messed up.
Totally hijacked. Think about libido not just as sexual energy, but as your fundamental life force, your drive for pleasure, connection, creativity, curiosity.
Okay.
In this burnout cycle, we often reroute all that energy into narrow channels. productivity, achieving KPIs, building a personal brand, getting likes. You start craving traction online more than genuine human touch. You chase the dopamine hit of a notification, not deep rest.
So the energy that's meant for living gets funneled into performing work.
Exactly. And the libido gets exhausted trying to pretend that optimizing a spreadsheet provides the same deep satisfaction as, say, genuine connection or creative expression or even just rest. So eventually it rebels.
And that's when we see those weird behaviors.
That's often it. The compulsive doom scrolling, the sudden binge watching or eating, maybe rage quitting a hobby you used to enjoy, or bursting into tears over a sentimental commercial. That's your repressed life force acting out, basically screaming, I was made for more than this, more than optimizing email.
And then we often complete the cycle in a really insidious way, don't we? By internalizing the very system that's causing the pain.
Oh, absolutely. Identification with the aggressor, it's sometimes called. Instead of resisting the relentless pressure, we replicate it inside ourselves. The superego goes completely feral.
How does that show up?
Well, think about it. When you do finally allow yourself a break because you're burned out, what does that inner voice say? Does it just say, rest, it's okay?
Rarely. More like, okay, rest, but do it efficiently.
Exactly. Optimize your rest, maximize your recovery protocols, track your sleep quality, read these 5 books on healing. You're not just resting, you're performing recovery with the same intensity you perform productivity.
You just swap the mask of the high achiever for the mask of the enlightened healer.
Precisely. Still performing, just a different role.
But what happens if we actually stop?
Yeah.
If we genuinely heal, slow down, step off the hamster wheel entirely? That sounds terrifying too.
It is terrifying.
Yeah.
Because then you face the void, what some call the anxiety of freedom.
An anxiety of
Real healing, the kind that's messy, boring, and definitely not Instagrammable, means confronting who you are when you're not defined by your struggle, your crisis, your performance. Who are you when you're not the busy achiever or the recovering burnout case?
just you, without the drama.
Exactly. And the silence, the lack of external validation, the sheer normalcy can feel unbearable after being addicted to the high stakes of the burnout cycle. There are no witnesses to your quiet contentment.
Is that why people relapse? Why we seem to unconsciously set ourselves up for the next collapse? We recover, feel a bit invisible, maybe bored.
And then we subtly start overbooking, overcommitting, ignoring the body's whispers until they become screams again. Because tragically, the scream often gets you attention, care, love. The quiet whisper of, I'm okay now, that can feel like loneliness.
You'd almost rather be broken and held than whole and unseen.
It's a devastating unconscious calculation, but yes. And that whole cycle perfectly illustrates the final Freudian concept here. Burnout as a compromise formation.
A compromise formation.
Yeah, it's like a brilliant unconscious peace treaty between the warring parts of your psyche. The ego gets some rest and attention, but disguised as illness. The superego maintains control by framing it as a noble struggle or healing journey. The ego manages to keep the whole show on the road.
And the system kind of rewards this compromise, doesn't it? It
Yeah.
prefers you to rebrand your collapse rather than actually quit or fundamentally change.
Exactly. You get to be weak, but you label it vulnerability. You get to stop producing, but you call it recovery. You turn the collapse into content, the pain into a product. Act 2 on repeat.
So, thinking about the listener now, if we look underneath this symptom, this performance, what are we really using burnout to avoid? It's not just the stress, is it?
Probably not just the stress. Often it's masking a deeper grief.
Grief.
Grief for the life maybe you didn't get to choose, or the parts of yourself you had to sacrifice for achievement. Grief for connection you feel you haven't found. And maybe the deepest grief, the crushing internalized belief that love and acceptance weren't freely given, that they had to be earned through relentless effort and ultimately exhaustion.
Wow. So the burnout isn't the illness, it's the language used to express something else entirely.
It can be. The shocking mirror this perspective holds up is that your burnout might be a kind of perverse love letter to yourself, written in suffering, because that's the only language your internalized taskmaster, your superego, would allow. You're not just healing, you're curating your suffering for maximum emotional reward.
Okay, so a final thought then, for anyone listening who recognizes themselves in this, who speaks fluent exhaustion. The next time you feel that familiar fog rolling in, that urge to craft the perfect post about your necessary sacred pause, what if you didn't?
What if you didn't optimize it, didn't brand it, didn't reframe it as heroic healing?
What if, just for yourself, in the quiet, you whispered the simple, maybe terrifying truth? I just want to stop.
What happens if you start translating the exhaustion into socially acceptable content and just sit with the raw feeling, the discomfort, the boredom, the silence?
Maybe that's where the real healing starts, not in the performance of recovery, but in the quiet surrender.
Not in strategy, but in just being. Unphotographable, uncurated being.